Hello and welcome to another World of Warcraft Cataclysm beta video. Today we're going to be looking at the Druid, the Feral, and Restoration specs. Now I've already done a balanced version of the Druid and you can check out the link to that in the description for this video. So if you're looking for balance, it's a different video. This is going to be Feral and Restoration. The first thing I want to look at are the two new abilities for Feral. The first one is Stampeding Roar. There's a cat and a bear version which do the exact same thing, increasing all nearby friendly players' movement speed within 10 yards by 40%. So I'm just gonna hit it. It's just a fancy version of haste. But for the entire group. It's only 6 seconds though. It's kind of odd. I mean, there's some uses in PvP and whatnot, but it's not like world-shattering. Some of the other new abilities in this game are really, really amazing, but this one is pretty mundane. The second new ability is Skull Bash. There's also a cat and a bear version of this one. Use charge and Skull Bash the target, preventing any spell in that school from being cast. So it's an interrupt. And Druids have never had a traditional interrupt, and this is like the first one. Now it's a very short range, 13 yards and 8 yards for cat. So it's not something that you can just hit at a long range. The Solar Beam for balanced Druids, on the other hand, is a long range interrupt. Now I've got someone attacking me here, so I'm going to use this opportunity to Skull Bash and show all that off. Where's my Skull Bash icon now? I see I'm out of range. I have to be really close to actually do it. And then there's the other thing that Skull Bash does is it increases the mana cost of all spells by 30%. So it's kind of just an anti-caster spell. And the effect is identical for bears. Moving on to talents. Most of these talents are unchanged. You're going to recognize a lot of them, like Feral Aggression and Primal Fury, but there have been some slight alterations. What I want to show for Feral Aggression is that when you attack or when you cast your Fairy Fire, rather, it says it causes Fairy Fire to apply 2 stacks of the Fairy Fire when cast, with 2 points at 3. And you're like, wait, back up. What do you mean stacks? Okay, Fairy Fire Feral is now stacking like Sunder Armor. It's 4% per stack. It's like it's just like Sunder Armor. And let's watch that in motion. It's on cooldown. 2, 8%, 3, 12%. I also want to point out a quick change for bear form before I move on. Your Maul ability is no longer an on-next attack. The same change that happened with your warrior in Heroic Strike and Cleave has happened with Maul. It's now an instant attack, and it's used once every 3 seconds. Back to talents here. There's a new talent that runs off of Feral Charge. Increases your melee haste by 30% after you use Feral Charge Bear for 8 seconds, and Ravage will temporarily not require stealth for 6 seconds after Feral Charge Cat. So this is a buff for Feral Charge. When you charge, you get a haste bonus, and with Cat form, you can actually stealth. You can actually jump behind someone with Feral Charge and then Ravage them while you're not stealthed. And that's pretty nice. I mean, that's really actually effective. It's of course much better for groups if something is tanking, so you can sit there and ravage it without any problems, because if you're grinding, it's really difficult to get behind them even with a Feral Charge. There's a new ability, Pulverize, for bear form. Deals a bunch of damage and additional damage per application of Lacerate. It also increases your critical strike chance for each Lacerate application for 18 seconds. So what you want to do is use your Pulverize, which has, by the way, no cooldown. I'm going to find an enemy. I'm going to go ahead and just lacerate him to death. Lacerate, lacerate, lacerate. Alright, now I'm going to land a Pulverize. And I got a damage bonus, and I also gain this melee critical strike chance increased by 6%. Next, increases the duration of your Rake by 6 seconds and your Savage Roar and Pulverize by 6 seconds. So, of course, this is a no-brainer. It does increase a couple of the abilities that you're going to be using constantly, so of course you want to make use of that. Blood in the Water. Your Ferocious Bite, when the enemy is low on health and execute range, essentially replaces your Rip, because you'll no longer need to work Rip into your rotation when the boss is in execute range. Primal Madness makes Tiger's Fury and Berserk generate extra energy, and it makes Enrage and Berserk generate extra rage. So this is obviously a very useful talent for both sides of the equation. So as you can see, not much has changed for the Feral Druid. Alright, next we're going to be focusing on Restoration. Now there's been very little actual changes to Restoration. Matter of fact, there are no new spells. Have been some slight alterations. One of the alterations is that Tree of Life has been changed significantly, but I will go into that when I get there on the talents. Now, otherwise, you do have the kind of rebalance with your spells. Nourish is now a slow cast for very low mana, and Healing Touch is a slow cast for very large amount of mana. But heals for a lot more than Nourish. So this is just what they're doing with priests and shamans, all the healers really. So your two heals have the same spell casting time, but one is a cheap, it's kind of like down ranking. If you remember, it's been a while since down ranking was really effective, but that's the way they used to do it. Like you'd use, your Healing Touch, your max rank Healing Touch you'd use with Nature Swiftness, but you'd use a lower rank Healing Touch for your main healing because of the low mana cost. And that's kind of what they've implemented here. Now, for other changes, you're going to have to look at the talent trees. There's a couple of new things in here, but not a whole lot. One thing you'll notice is that Empowered Touch now has a 100% chance to refresh the duration on your Life Bloom when you cast Nourish. So what that means is that if you don't want your Life Bloom to ever actually bloom, you just want to have rolling Life Blooms, you get up 3 stacks on yourself, on your target. And I got 9, 8, 7, and then I got 10 again. So if you have a target and the healing isn't too tough, and you just want to keep up with it for cheap, you can roll your Life Blooms while spamming Nourish. Now even with my shoddy gear, I'm able to regenerate all of the mana from Nourish. I mean, I can't even spend my mana. So if you're in a situation where you're healing somebody and they're not taking that much damage, but you just want to spam your heal, you can do that. This is a spammable heal. And it'll also keep Life Bloom rolling, and your occasional Living Seed will proc. So let's move on from there. There's some more interesting stuff over here I'm going to get to last. Nature's Bounty increases the critical effect of your regrowth spell by 60%, and you have a 100% chance when you critically heal with Healing Touch and Nourish to reduce the remaining cooldown of Swiftmend by 5 seconds. So what this means is this is going to give you back the old functionality of improved regrowth. You remember it used to be a 50% increase in crit, and they nerfed it. Now you're essentially getting it back plus another 10%. Plus, you're also reducing the cooldown on your Swiftmend every time your Healing Touch and Nourish crits. Swiftmend has a 15-second cooldown, so it's absolutely essential to get this talent. I mean, this is a great talent. This also goes hand in hand with the new talent Efflorescence. I don't know how to pronounce that, it's a silly pun. But when you critically heal with your regrowth spell, you sprout a bed of healing flora. You know, how nice. So you can make a bed of flowers for your ally as they're getting killed. But let me just regrowth myself until I get a crit. There we go. So there's your bed of flowers, and what this does is it actually gives you a heal, an AoE heal if you stand in it, just like Healing Rain and some other abilities that have been added to the game recently. There's also one for priests, I think, something where you stand in the circle of helpfulness and it will heal you, as opposed to the circle of death, what you're used to for braids. So it's going to be really difficult to differentiate between all these circles of helping and circles of killing that they're going to be everywhere. There's like, I guess red and black means death, and green and white means healing, and blue, I don't know. So what are you going to do if you're colorblind? You're going to be screwed. But anyway, moving on, there's one last change that's very important. Tree of Life is no longer a permanent form. Yeah, seriously. It's now just a 45-second buff with a 5-minute cooldown. It's kind of like Metamorphosis for Warlocks. I guess this is just the dev's way of trying to do something different from Restoration, to make it a little different than the other trees and different from the other healing classes. So let's go see this in effect. Before I use that, I also want to go over the talent that goes with it. Fury of Storm Rage reduces the mana cost of your Wrath spell by 100%, and when you deal damage with Wrath, you have a 30% chance to make your Starfire instant. So this gives you a free spell to cast. So this is so great for leveling. I mean, it actually gives it gives you some bite. It gives you something to do. So I'm going to Wrath here. Notice I'm not using any mana for Wrathing. I got Fury of Storm Rage to appear, so after this Wrath finishes, I'm just going to hit my instant Starfire. And this guy's being a jerk and using Rain of Fire on me, so I'm going to run out of that. And he's going to be dumb enough to sit there and keep casting it, even though it's not hitting me. That's the computer for you. So that's how that works. That's very nice for grinding. I mean, the damage is not going to give a Balance Druid a run for their money at all. But it's just nice to have something for that Restoration Druids can say, hey, I can level as Restoration and it'll be slightly less boring. Alright, the other thing is that Tree of Life, when you cast it, enhances a bunch of your spells, including Wrath. Now that's a really big departure from what Tree of Life is thought of as before. You're used to it shutting down your balance spells, not enhancing them. So let's go ahead and hit Tree of Life. You see it highlights all the spells that have been boosted. Let's get a Thorns up and start hitting our Wrath, and let's see what kind of difference we get out of this. I gain a huge bonus to speed. Look at this. Look how fast this is. This is crazy. And I just dropped a big... I also dropped a Starfire. Unfortunately, the Starfire casting kicked me out of tree form. So hopefully this is an issue they resolve, because the talent here says it enhances your Wrath, and then it just, but then that you can't use it with Fear or Storm Rage. I mean, that's really silly, and that's something I discovered when I was preparing for this video and just doing some testing. So that really surprised me. Should I kill this guy? Nah, screw it. I do have balance on my other tree. I could switch over to balance and just blow him up, but that's alright. That's alright. I don't feel like murdering anybody today. So anyway, back on topic, the little bit of I guess I could call it a misstep that they don't have Starfire enabled on your Tree of Life is interesting. I mean, I would think that they would either take away the enhancement to Wrath, or they would add it for Starfire, or at least allow you to use Starfire. Is this guy gonna kill me? Well, I'm stuck in combat, so I couldn't shift if I wanted to. I don't know what this guy's problem is, but maybe he's afraid I'm going to kill him. Good old PvP servers. I would never have played this game another way. Trust me, if you took away my PvP servers, I would quit this game immediately. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And again, if you are looking for Balance Druid information, Moonkin information, that's on a separate video. The link to that video will be in the description. So thanks, and I'll see you at the next video.